Yes, sir. My name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here, probably a video I should have done earlier, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest. It's just like a milestone thing. So, yeah, you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. I hit 20 time godly, and I want to talk about how I usually go about doing it. Maybe like my process of how I play, and also maybe some strategies I often use in consistent games. Because obviously, if you watch me on stream or if I play, I do certain things quite consistently. Everybody has a play style, right? So I want to talk on that, and maybe you guys can actually implement that into how you play, or maybe it would help you actually if you plan on actually trying to get godly. Right now it's a double RP season. There's golden showdown, whatever you want to call it. There's extra drops, right? So a lot of people are going to be playing, and I'd say now more than ever it's harder to get godly, but in a normal season it's actually not as hard as you might think. It just requires a lot of consistency, and I'm going to talk a bit on that in this video. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button, man. We are on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. Yes sir. All my social media links are going to be in the bottom of the screen. This is the YouTube channel, but we've got Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, Instagram, and Discord link all in the description below, so make sure to check me out on all of those. But yeah, man, without further ado, let's get into the video now. Now, I'm not gonna come here and try cap to you and try to tell you things that are not real, because all I do is be real, keep it trill. Yeah, I have a very good team. That's the main thing I want to point out there. And more than anything, you need one solid team. I always push for everybody to make one solid team. Just at least one solid team. It doesn't matter what tag you pick, but if you max out that solid team to the potential that you want it to be at, which would be the highest, of course. If you're not aiming for the highest, I don't know what you're aiming for. But if you max out just one solid team, you will be able to actually get very, very far. And that's what I've done with my Fusion Warrior team. So subpar stars, because stars are extremely how can I say, it's based on you just actually getting lucky. So subpar stars, but in most case scenarios, if you build just one team and you save up your chrono crystals, you should be at least able to get that character to 6 to 9 stars. That's reasonable for even if you're able to save 25k. And if you're saving for specifically one team, don't tell me you can't save 25k. You can just say you're bad at saving. That's just me keeping it real as well. I'll show you my team though. This is my main team. I barely use this team, and for the guys that know, when I actually stream, I use different characters all the time. You can check my channel on the live streams, different characters all the time. So I'm barely actually using this team, but if I do want to win and I do want to actually just wash people, this is the team that I go for. Obviously, depending on the meta, if a unit drops, I would actually go for them and whatnot. For example, right now we have Beast Gohan in the game, so I've actually got him here at 13 stars. So I'm not actually using this team that so often, man. I'm actually using Beast Gohan a lot more. And with the way PvP works nowadays, with the feature boost system, it's almost like vital that you actually use a unit that's more fresh. So if I go to boost characters, you'll be able to see who's in the boost section, and most likely it'll be one of the most recent units. Now, does that mean that you have to summon for them? No. But if they're a unit that you can utilize on your main squad, for example, fortunate for me, I use a team that isn't very tag restrictive. So let me give you an example of what I mean by tag restrictive. So if I go to Sparkings here, and most of your teams will be centered about an LF. So just to make it easy, I'm going to turn the LF on. If I go to Sword of Hope Trunks, he's probably the most restrictive unit in the game, because he isn't good if you're not running him with Future or Vegeta Clan. And this here, that's the section. He gets endurance if you run him with one of those, and his gauge literally will fill as a result. So like, what the hell, you know? That makes him way worse if you're not running him with Future or Vegeta Clan. As a leader slot unit, you can't basically use him unless you have to keep the tag linear. But fortunate for Fusion Warriors, which is why I've actually picked the team, I feel like it's the easiest team to build, simply because of the fact that every festival, every anniversary, any hyped moment in the game, they will drop a Fusion unit. It's almost inevitable every single year. It's mad. At least one of those. We get at least one Fusion Warrior a year. Maximum 2 or 3. Maximum 3. One at least though. And every time they drop, they're usually the best unit in the game. So why would I not invest in that team? That's just how I see it. And they're also very hyped, so that's a plus. That's a plus. But none of these units are very tag restrictive, and that just allows me to put them on any team. So for example, let's say I want to run Beast Gohan, which is what I've been doing. I can literally just take off one of these units. So I'll take off maybe the EX on the strike, because this guy can do that. And then I just swap them around like this. Yes, I do lose 5% from Nameku and this guy here, but even if I wanted to, I could put EX Gogeta back. So let me just do that. and then I would get an extra 5%. The only reason I'm explaining that because Fusion Warriors work the way it works with Ultra abilities, you need to run the same tag. So if anything, I'll just take off the Dynamic Q1 instead, so I can keep my Fusion Warriors, and then they're getting the more buffs basically, because there's Fusion Warriors on the team, subpar beats Gohan, and he would be the leader slot unit, and that works. So essentially, number one thing more than anything else is the team, and I know my stars are very high. It helps me get to godly much easier, but even if you can get to 6 or 9, you're good, trust me. Max out your equipment. Your equipment are the most valuable thing on your team, so don't sleep on those. Definitely put those together well, because it's very important to have good equipment, I'll be honest, more than anything else. So if you think stars are very important, your equipment will keep you solid. No matter what level you're at, equipment will hold you in the game stronger than stars, in my opinion anyways. Subpar the fact that you need to be a good player. So let's more dive into the type of player you want to actually be when actually playing in PvP. This is more so about your team formation and how you should go about it, using things in the meta and whatnot, and of course the team that you invest in. So what I'm actually going to do for this, I'm actually go to the summoning section, the featured characters, and I'm actually going to just press the try with Beast Gohan, because I'm going to use this section, this playfield, to actually show you what I mean about what type of player you want to be. So when starting a PvP game, I probably have a video. I do have a video on like how you should start the battle, but you start mid-range, right? What I usually like to do is actually float backwards. I don't like to be aggressive personally, because you need to gauge out what type of player the enemy is. If they come for you, that makes them aggressive. If they go back to you, you can tell they're a bit more passive. And just that alone, it can make you, you can easily gauge what type of plays they might do based on how they moved off that first interaction. When I was like in like year 7, so I was 13 years old, I had this teacher, right? A little life lesson here, but it works in the game as well. He said that in the first 5 seconds of meeting somebody, you already have a strong impression of what you think of them, just off rip of how they look, maybe how they smell, how you greeted them. Even if you didn't even speak to them, just by looking at them in 5 seconds, you make an impression. Everybody does. So even with just the gliding back, I can tell that they're going to be a lot more passive and calculated. Maybe if they glide forward, I can tell they're going to be a lot more aggressive but still calculated. People that usually dash back like that, like not the dash forward, because that's the new technique. But people that usually dash backwards, like so rash, they're usually the type to not be as rational, simply because if you do that, you get stuck in an animation. You see how I can't do anything as I'm pressing. Let me go close to him, and if I dash back, you can't do anything in that moment. You get locked in. So just a little impression like that, you can actually gauge what your enemy is like, and I actually tell you to apply that and make quick decisions based on how they played in the first couple seconds. But of course, bear in mind that people adapt. So as the game goes on, they could change their playstyle based on how many times you did a certain thing. But in the first couple plays, you should very much pay attention to how they moved, so that you can get the edge from the jump. You don't want to do anything too shaky, just randomly throwing things out. You can actually be calculated, and that's something I actually implement. Another thing I want to point out is that you should actually play towards what the meta is. And I feel like this is obvious, right? Like, oh, if people are using Beast Gohan, you should play knowing Beast Gohan's kit. But it's a lot more like down to specifics than that. So what I noticed is, specifically with Final Form Cooler, bro, LF Cooler, specifically with him, because he locks on that first strike, a lot of units, or rather a lot of people that are using that unit, would like to like drop combo, because you know you're going to get strike cover changed. He switched all his caster strikes, and if he doesn't land that first strike, you probably rush him or something, you can catch him. So often he would drop combo knowing that he's only got strikes and he will cover change. It also makes it easy to predict his rush, because if he switched all his cards to strikes, he's probably already only got strikes, no blast, unless he just done a long combo, then he might draw one. He's probably got all strikes, and on top of that, he most likely has a blue or a green. So it increases your odds of picking what the card is than what you had before. So before you'd have like a 25% chance sometimes. It goes up a bit more just because you don't have to consider blast, which is easier for you. Cool. Now with Beast Gohan, it's even the same thing, because if his gauge is not full, he's more likely to drop combo. People like to drop combo simply because if his gauge is not full, he doesn't have the no cover change thing, so he doesn't want to end his combo because he's a big damager. I was just floating around doing nothing, but he's a big damager, and he also wants to continue filling up his gauge. So then he was more likely to drop combo if he doesn't have his gauge. You need to read into what people's kits are, and you know that most people would do the same thing simply because they're also fighting many games, so they also want to adapt. So they would obviously adapt so that they can actually get the advantage. So you need to be able to anticipate certain things like that and just have it in your head that it's a possibility simply because their kit works a certain way. Specifically with Beast Gohan, he works on his gauge more than anything else. You should know if it's a possibility that he could have a green, so don't pop your main ability at stupid times, because if his gauge is full and he pops that green, your card's getting destroyed. You don't want that. You also don't want to throw out silly moves thinking, oh, let me take his vanish or something, and then all of a sudden he fills his gauge and pops a blue and a green, so now he's killed one of your guys, and on top of that he's got his vanish back. You don't want to be in situations like that, so very much read into their kit so that you're well aware of how you can actually attack the enemies. And this is a thing, if you apply consistently, you just win games back to back to back. Because if I'm really trying in ranked PvP, I'd lose maybe 1 in 15 games, 1 in 20 games, and that's probably due to just mess ups or someone's genuinely better than me. Most guys are not better than me. That's just me being a 20-time godly player. I'm not trying to be narcissistic, but I can't just say most guys are not better than me and then I get godly every single season, like, but rather referring to the people that play the game, because there are some sweats that just don't play the game. I'm boosting myself too much, but I'm just making the case. Yeah, very much read into kits, and the other point I mentioned, read the enemy you're facing, then adapt. Now, some of you might feel like that was a whole lot of nothing, but it makes a lot of sense, especially the second point, or outside of the teams. That's more so for like newer players more than anything else. But the second point, more than anything else, reading into kits is very, very valuable for how you would progress during a certain season, because of what characters are being used the most in that season. Right now Beaston's being used, so you need to know how to counter him, and that's something you should actually look into based on how his kit works, alongside who else is in the meta. So I'd even talk about Pan, but you should know Pan is so supportive, it's dumb, and she's a big disruptor. But simply because of how she works, sub counts are going to go down, so you need to be wary of the fact that Beaston could come in seconds when he just left the battlefield. Don't think you're safe, you know, doing risky stuff just because he left the battlefield. You're not safe, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, hopefully this video was useful. Anybody else that's a godly player at all, give some tips on what you might specifically do. I can't give too many specifics simply because it would come down to like specific PvP text that you could apply, and that's all long at that point. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, man. Hopefully this video was useful. My back kind of hurts. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button, man. We're on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. Yes, sir. All my social media links are going to be in the bottom of the screen. It's the YouTube channel. We've got Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, Instagram, and a Discord link, all in the description below. So make sure to check me out on all of those. I'm going to leave the video like that. I appreciate you guys for watching. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.